Thanks so much for listening. Before getting into today's episode, I just wanted to let you know that I would love to add value to you, your organization, and those you serve through speaking, training, professional development, or coaching. I've been fortunate to work with those in higher education, pre-K-12, and more recently, the corporate space. To learn more, visit my website at cjleadership.com or send me an email at chris@cjleadership.com. I can't wait to hear from you, and now on to our episode. Welcome back, friends, to the Department Chair Leadership Podcast. Hey, I'm always so grateful. You're busy. You take time out of your busy schedule to not only hopefully improve yourself as a leader, but as we know, most importantly, the lives of those in the organization or the groups that you serve. Today, I'm really excited because we have a great guest, and it's also a repeat guest. But first of all, if you have not listened to the first episode with Carolyn Mattiske, you can go back, and that will give you some great value in terms of her professional life. But today we're also going to talk about how she has expanded to doing some things to adding value from a personal perspective. Just to provide a brief introduction, again, Carolyn Mattiske has over 20 years of experience designing, delivering, and managing adult learning and leadership programs. Her work focuses on ensuring leaders see their role in creating diverse, equitable, and inclusive environments where all people feel a sense of belonging and can bring their full selves to work. Ensuring leaders have the mindset and strategies to properly prioritize the well-being of the talented human beings that do the work for the organization yields peak performance for both individual and organizations, and empowering leaders is what drives her. In fact, Carolyn recently is starting some work with her LLC called People Culture Group, and she can tell us some more about that. She's an organizational learning strategist, recognized for award-winning leadership programs. She's a certified trainer for DISC and Crucial Conversations for Mastering Dialogue and Mastering Accountability and Crucial Conversations for Accountability. Now, she currently does serve as a director for the Strategic Academic and Innovative Leadership known as SAIL Institute, which is part of the State University of New York system. Additionally, she holds 2 degrees from the University of Albany, a bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in marketing and communication, as well as a master's degree in curriculum development and instructional technologies. She proudly earned her advanced degree while working full-time and raising a family. And speaking of, Carolyn and her family reside in upstate New York, which includes 2 marvelous children, Owen and Evelyn. Carolyn, welcome back. Hope all is well in upstate New York. How are you doing today?
Oh, thank you, Chris. The sun has finally emerged in upstate New York. So after many, many days of rain, this is a beautiful day. So thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you. The first time you were on, you added great value to our leaders because of the great work that you contribute at SUNY, multiple, I think 60 some campuses, and doing great work that I wish more people would do across the country to train our mid-level academic leaders. Because you add value through your professional, I guess, job, professional side of your life, obviously great background, great preparation to work with others, design curriculum, add value as a leader. I'm excited to let listeners, viewers know the other side or the additional talents that you bring to the table. As I said, you're rolling out an LLC called People Culture Group. And, we were talking pre-show, and you have done some really good work, including some keynote speaking and training on resiliency. And so I tell you what, let's just kick it off right there, Carolyn. Why do our listeners, I think the majority of whom are in some type of leadership position, certainly they're influencing others, they're working with people, why do we need to pay more attention about resiliency, and what are the things that as leaders we need to know and be aware of?
Excellent question, Chris, and thank you for that jumping off point. Resiliency is a skill set. And so a lot of times we think about leadership as, is someone born a leader or do they learn these skills? And I think resiliency is another one of those questions where, some people may find some challenges. And the reason it's so important that we have to do this is everyone is going through something. And if they're not going through something, they need to have a set of skills for when that challenge that really, rocks their world happens. Because you can't have the bottom drop out, and so everyone has a struggle. They may not bring that to their work and talk to their manager or their colleagues about it, but as a human, acknowledging that we're all struggling is important. And I think as a leader, we have to have that awareness that sometimes people will talk about it and sometimes they won't. But we need to have our own personal set of resiliency skills, and encourage them and shine a light on what we do and offer opportunities to our people that we care about, so that they can rely on these things for themselves. And they're different for everybody. So I kind of talked around that. The challenges that I've had in my life have forced me to figure this stuff out. And so that's why I'm really happy to take a sidestep from the busy work that I do at SUNY every day and help leaders who are interested in this resiliency work. So yeah, I've had quite a fun time, talking about this topic to groups, going to offsite retreats for people so that they can hear my story and just hopefully inspire them, that this is possible. You can build these skills.
Well, thank you for sharing that. My background, as people know, is teaching. I'm a teacher at heart. I train teachers or help train teachers now, and I'm glad you mentioned that because resiliency is we all go through something or are going present progressive tense going through, and it's really hard, despite how much we might try as leaders, certainly as formalized leaders. I say in my relational realities, we care for, but we're not necessarily caretakers. But the part of us that has to care for the people we serve, we have to be aware of both what we're going through and what they're going through. We take everything with us to work in the morning, right? If we could take our coffee
Absolutely.
cup but leave all of our struggles at home, that'd be nice. But no, it comes with us along with the laptop and the keys and the coffee mug and all of that. And so, what do people need to know then? If a new leader is coming to you or a seasoned leader, and let's say one of my colleagues is struggling with resiliency, and I say, you know what? I know somebody that's going to help you, and I send them your way. What's that conversation going to look like?
Well, I think that an individual would be really well served with an executive coach. I do have some executive coaching skills. It's not a certification that I have today. I would love to be able to grow that and focus more on that at some point in my life. But I would happily recommend one of the many coaches that I work with. Um, and I like to think of it in sort of very simple terms, right? Like if I'm talking to a kindergartner, so we all have things that we lose track of time doing. So those are the things that really fill us up, right? Like I was just out here before the podcast doing my gardening. I love to run. But everyone has those things like play the guitar, write poetry. There's a whole list of things that are very personal to an individual that they lose track of time and they're really living. They're in that flow state. So I like to think of those things as, sort of menu options. And every day, I think that it's crucial. I've lived this, at least, looking at my own menu of things that bring me joy and bring me to that place of joy, and selecting one or two of them and allowing myself, prioritizing it, because that's the fuel for me. And so I may work really hard during the day at my job and parenting and doing all the things to serve, but also need to serve myself. And so selecting from my personal menu every day is important.
So with resiliency, and you've touched on some great things there, is we leadership is twofold. We got to lead ourselves before we can lead others. And I think too many people forget to take care of themselves. Like you said, find the things that bring you joy. And, I always joke is one person's pleasure is another person's pain. You mentioned you run, right?
Mhm.
Okay. I know people that's their happy place. I also know people, I'd probably one of them that, if you asked me to go run a long distance, if that would be my happy place after about 2 minutes, probably not, but maybe I should work towards it. But what you said, and it's similar to Stephen Covey's work many years ago now, is we got to sharpen that saw. And so with resiliency, what are some things that you have found helpful for listeners that are saying, "Hey, I get it. This sounds great." What are some things that they can do in addition to that self-care? How does this look maybe more in their professional space?
Well, I can go back to the three main points that I made in my keynote, because I did put a lot of thought into this. Just being asked to come and tell my story, I wanted to leave people with some tangible takeaways. And so the things that I've whittled this down to be really essential are creating the environment. So create the environment that you want. And so, as a leader, that's your office space. You can see I've got plates behind me. These are very meaningful for me. They're from my family and their travels around the world. I didn't necessarily go there, but I just, I've painted the room purple and I've got things that are meaningful for me. I'm looking at a beautiful plant that came from my friend who's a gardener, all the things that bring me joy. I've created this space for myself. And so for an individual, they can do that. They can have a piece of art or their children's artwork or a poem or something that they can look at, and it's a trigger to find some happiness. And, we can't just constantly be bombarded by task after task after task. We have to have something where we can look and remember why we're here, the bigger purpose, our bigger why. And so create the environment, and that can be an individual contributor. And it's also for leaders to think about the environments that they're creating for the employees. So that's tone of voice and respect and airtime that people get. Asking opinions of people. So creating the environment, I think, is really part of this that we can't forget. I talked a little bit about building your resiliency skills. And so the first easy thing one can do is maybe do a brain dump of all of the things that they love. What are those things that if you had unlimited time or money, you would do? Have a long list, create your own menu, and just have that as something where you can easily say, I don't have a lot of time today. I'm working, but I do have 5 minutes to, you know, read a little bit of a book, or, talk to my mom on the phone. What are those things that you can do in a short amount of time? And then on the days when you have more time to go for a hike or something that's more of an investment in your time, you have that clarity. But I, have really struggled over the past 3 years with cancer diagnosis in my intimate family. And so I was forced to figure those things out. And being a caretaker is quite a journey. But I knew that every day I had to serve myself, like put that oxygen mask on myself because you deplete. You really like. I think I have a lot of energy and a lot of commitment to my caregiving journey, but even I burned out and became depleted. So for me, I had to, pray every day or go outside and just somehow start sweating by either walking or running. But those are the two things that I knew easily I could do, and then I could handle what life threw at me. And then the third point is to keep showing up. Sometimes just showing up to work is the accomplishment, and that's okay. And I think it's important for leaders to know that sometimes you have an employee who they're in a tough season of their life. It doesn't mean that like they can't get back to a high performing season again, but sometimes just showing up is an accomplishment. So to have that empathy, to have that wherewithal to keep showing up ourselves is important.
I like that. You started with creating an environment. I think that goes a long way, both for our personal environments, our, I say personal, but like you said, your office space. I always remind people that part of developing a great culture and climate is being intentional about your spaces. And what you ended with there was just showing up. And in my leadership journey, my experience, I say I've never had a difficult conversation about someone's resume. Okay, it's the difficult conversations come from either choices they make, situations that might be out of their control, but nonetheless might affect some things professionally. What are some other things that you have seen that you think are very important for leaders to know with respect to resiliency? And I guess I'll throw in there as well from previous conversations. I know you do also do a lot of great work with mindfulness and meditation, which I think is all packaged together, but nonetheless, feel free to fill us in on those. So what else do we need to know as leaders who are trying to both personally be resilient, but also trying to create a culture and climate where that is acceptable and attainable for those we serve?
Mm, mm. Well, I saw a lot of people burning out, and I had this platform at SUNY, my day job, of being able to offer and design programs they need, that I know that they need, and so I worked with three instructors to build a program called Mindful Leadership. And so this has been offered for over 5 years now, and we offer it every semester in the fall and the spring. And we created an abbreviated version, the essentials of mindful leadership, that people can take in the summer. These courses, there's 3 courses in the series. We start with an introduction to mindfulness and meditation. And so give them a lot of the academic background, right? We're in the higher ed space. We need to, give them that background. That really gives them the comfort that what they're doing is not just a feel good. There's some science behind it. And then get them into the daily habits so that they can start to benefit personally from these exercises. The second course in that series is mindful communication, and we have an amazing professor, Dr. Kristen Blinny, who leads that, and she takes people through 4 weeks of using the skills that they've built in the first course to apply to how they're speaking to themselves and to others on their team, which is crucial for a leader and a learner. And then the final course in that series is mindful leadership. And we have Dr. Lisa Napora, who founded a mindful institute, and she sort of takes them to the finish line with this work. By the time people finish this 12-week series, the feedback has been phenomenal. I mean, we offer a lot of programs at Sale, but the people who go through this program say it changes their life. And the reason that I wanted to design this is because I did see the burnout, and I wanted to be able to have something to give leaders to sustain their career over their lifetime, and to help them create the environment where others can flourish. And so for leaders, I think this has been a wonderful addition. And so I'm very proud of that work and just grateful for the amazing talent that we have within SUNY to be able to build this. So that's one way that people can start to build these resiliency skills, is to just focus on, what they can control in their own body, and that's your breath and your awareness. And so it sounds so simple, but yeah, we've seen amazing results from this.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the word burnout. I do think obviously people can burn out, but I do think that there are ways that we can hopefully provide them the tools, create an environment where it's less likely to happen. And since you brought that up, obviously being more resilient is a factor. Just throwing something at you here. We didn't discuss this before we hit record, but one thing that's been on my mind as a leader when you study organizations, while leadership obviously matters, how is it that in most organizations you can have one person that is doing well? If you ask them, they're happy, they are fulfilled. Yes, the job is still hard. And then you might have someone literally or figuratively next door to them, same organization, same mission statement, same boss, all of the things, same coffee in the coffee room, whatever. And that person is 100% burnt out. I don't have the answer, but it's something that I've been thinking of and maybe you might want to research. What you've shared, I think, is a big part of that is resiliency. I kind of threw that at you, Carolyn, but what might your take on that be with your background and knowledge is how can all things being equal, employee A be very fulfilled and happy, and employee B that might have pretty much the same job be completely burnt out, have a toxic attitude, and might just be done?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think that the leader, you in this scenario, you've got the two employees, you've created the environment you feel good about. You're not encouraging people to work longer hours than is humane, or intentionally burning them out. You've created this environment, so I don't want a leader to ever beat themselves up unnecessarily about this, because there's so much in the context of one's life, and the skills that they've built or ignored up to this point. So this is up to each individual to figure out for themselves. And if your life has been going along swimmingly, you may not have had a need to build these resiliency skills. But then somewhere along the way, something happens and you're forced to figure this stuff out or you sink. So I can tell you, I was privileged to have the early part of my career be a time where I didn't have a lot of challenges. Either I had health, I had family, I had all of the things that created an environment for me to be successful in my profession. But then something happened, and a cancer rocks the world of a family. So it's not just the one person who goes through it, it's the family unit. You just don't know what is happening. And I think that there are seasons to life where you have to really tap into those skills to keep yourself going.
Again, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we all go through seasons, and certainly from an organizational leadership standpoint, I'll say it again, is we bring ourselves to work every day. Whether that is literally to work or even those that are working remotely and still need to interact and be on, so to speak, is everyone is going through something, and that certainly affects. It does affect the organizational culture and climate. It does affect productivity, whatever that means in your profession. So what are some other things in Carolyn? And I really appreciate this conversation. I know it's got me thinking more and more about this idea of resiliency, not only in myself, but I guess three things are coming to my mind. How am I making sure that I'm resilient for myself? To what extent am I guess, being an educator for those that I serve to enable an environment where that is something that we do? And then along those lines, what can I do to continue to encourage others to not only become more resilient, but I think once you can have that conversation in your organization, and once it becomes part of the vernacular, it's truly part of the environment. I guess I'll just go back then, Carolyn. What are some other things then, I guess, and it's flown by here as we kind of come to a close, that you would like to leave with leaders who are now thinking, oh, this really piqued my interest. A
Mhm.
couple things for them to, I guess, take with them when they're done listening, but then they can move forward and try something, read something, learn something. What would your advice be?
Sure, thank you. I am thinking about the growth mindset and the work of Carol Dweck. So if that's a book that your listeners have not read, I would encourage that because some people grow up in homes where you know parents have this fixed mindset, and then they just have that by default. So I think for a lot of people, when they hear about the growth mindset, it gives them an awakening that they can learn through failure. They can learn through setbacks and challenges, and it's not something that they're bound by. You just because you were, not a good math student doesn't mean that you can't learn math. And like the learning is the key thing. Like we don't fail, we just learn. So I think that the work of Carol Dweck is important. And there is one other book called Resilient Leadership 2.0 that I would recommend to readers and listeners as well. So if you're looking for something to sort of keep going on this path of building your own skill set, thinking about how to communicate it to your team, to your colleagues, yeah, I think that we're all in an environment that's very rife with challenges. Federal changes that are impacting us all. People that we love, we don't feel as they're as safe as they once were. And so, yeah, even if you don't have something like a personal tragedy going on, there is a bigger context that's swirling around us that can challenge us and force us to think about the things we can do to build up our reserves and to find purpose and meaning and keep going. So hopefully that's helpful.
Well, and thank you for sharing Carol Dweck's work. Even if you are familiar with it, it's one of those that go back and reread it. It always has something of value. Carolyn, anything else here as we close out?
I think we're all looking for these sources, and your show is one of them, for people to keep growing and learning and be inspired. One of the podcasts that I love is Brene Brown. And, everyone knows Brene Brown and her work on vulnerability. So, for me personally, that's what I go to. And she's always got such amazing stuff. But the takeaway for me about her and why I keep going back to it is because she keeps challenging me to be authentic. And I think that authenticity as a leader is really magnetic for people. People want to see the real you. And I think the more we can understand ourselves, be comfortable being vulnerable, the better we are and the more impact that we can have on people. It's freeing. It's freeing because people shouldn't have shame about things that they have struggled with or that they are struggling with. And so her work really does push me in that direction. And so, yeah, thank you for asking us what we're reading and offering more for people to grow. But this has been a really fun experience for me, and thank you for thinking of me.
Well, thank you. And listeners know that Brene Brown's work has been very influential. So, Carolyn, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking time to add value to our listeners today.
Oh, you're very welcome, Chris.
So, thank you to the listeners, to the viewers. Always a pleasure knowing that you took time to join us. Wish you well, and we will see you next time.